Hey guys, Probo1701 here, and today we are reviewing The Twin Dilemma. Yes, the Sixth Doctor's first story. And let me start off by saying I had a heck of a time watching this. I don't mean the story was hard to get through. I mean just I actually had a heck of a time trying to watch it. As the credits were rolling in part 1, I tried to skip past them so I could get back to the menu screen, and the Xbox froze. And it would not work. The whole thing just froze up. I had to take the disc out, put the disc back in. It's like even my Xbox was like, "What are you making me do? Why are you making me do this? Why?" Excuse me. Even my Xbox didn't want to watch this or play this. At the end of episode 2, did the same thing. Tried to skip past the credits, froze up again. It's like even my Xbox was like, "Why? Who wants to watch The Twin Dilemma?" Episode 3, tried to skip past it again. You think I'd have learned by now, but just out of habit this time I did it. Froze up again. At this point, my Xbox gave up. It wouldn't play part 4. It was like, "No, fuck you. I'm saving you. You're not playing part 4. I don't know why. There's a small little scratch on the disc that I don't know how it got there because I literally only watched this once before when I first got it, like in 2010. I don't know how it could have a mark on it. Episode 4, refused to play. The Xbox was like, no, I'm saving your life. So I went online and managed to find episode 4 and started watching it, even though that particular video, the colors were a bit washed out. Episode 4 is 25 minutes long, and about the 20-minute mark, it froze. It wouldn't play anymore. I'm like, even my internet connection or the website is going, "No, stop watching it. Stop watching it. Listen to your Xbox." So I had to go out of that, go into a different video, which had ads. We love those. I'm sitting over there, skip, let me skip the ads. Finally, I got through that and then skipped to the last 5 minutes because I only had about 5 minutes left to go in part 4, which was flipped backwards. I hate when they do that, but I get why they do that. Copyright issues, yada, yada, yada. And during those 5 minutes, I had to go through another ad, and then finally got to finish the story. And I'm like, man, I really had to work my ass off to watch The Twin Dilemma. Usually, it's been sitting on the shelf for years, and I've just been like, pass. Now the one time I want to watch it, I actually have to put an effort into it to watch it. That's just sad. But yeah, I really had to work just to watch Twin Dilemma. However, interestingly enough, you know what? Story's okay. It's not bad. Better than people give it credit for. I mean, I've seen it before, and the first time I watched it, I didn't think much of it either. But I look at these things with a different eye these days. The biggest problem with this story is a couple of things. One, the acting is bad. The acting in this story just isn't good for the most part. First off, I'm guessing Colin Baker is a theatrically trained actor. The way he acts just feels like a classic theatrically trained actor. It looks like it belongs on a stage, and I'm sure on a stage it's good. But here, you know, his movements are very exaggerated, very broad. His voice is very booming. His face is very exaggerated. Again, it looks more like he's on a stage, which works well when you're on a stage. I did a lot of theater in high school and in college myself, actually. A lot of theater. That was one of my favorite things to do in school. And that's really good on the stage. But on the TV set, it comes across as over the top and very hammy. And his isn't the only bad acting in it. The twins are... Especially that very first scene of the story, the twins are just terrible. They feel like they're saying the lines they read on a script, but they don't know what they mean. It's kind of like if you saw someone get up to give a speech, you could tell they just kind of copy-pasted the lines from their speech from other sources, because while they're saying the lines, they don't actually know what they mean. That's what it feels like with the twins, especially in that first scene. The rest of the story, they're kind of hit or miss. But that very first scene with them just kind of puts you off. Perry's okay. I mean, I understand why she's frustrated with the doctor and why she's angry and irritated and annoyed. The way she reacts to Colin in this story is very understandable. I'd be annoyed and cross in that situation too. Because that is the second main bad thing about this story is the doctor. And I get it's post-regeneration trauma. But this goes past that. I mean, it gets a partial pass for that, but he's so out of character. Like, the part where he strangles Perry is brief, and that doesn't bother me as much. It's the part when he turns all coward in like episode 2, I think it is, when he's like hiding behind Perry. No, it wasn't me, it was her. And he's hiding behind her. It was all her idea. Shoot her. Get her. Like, that's so cringe-worthy. And then he's blaming her for it. I'm just here. This was all her fault. He's completely throwing Perry under the bus, What happened to never cruel or cowardly? He acts like such a coward here. Even the part right before the enemy shows up when he's like, you're right, this is all about just reconnaissance. We should go. What about the children? No. Children are survivalists. They're good. We should go. The doctor's supposed to be big on saving children. It's so off-putting because it's out of his character. There's a lot of that in this story where it's just way out of character for the doctor. Like when he refuses to help when the police officer's like, well, just take me to the, take me. No, I'm not going. Well, fine, I'll go myself. Yeah, all right, you go yourself. We have to help him. No, he said he can do it himself. It's just, the doctor's so off-putting here. It's too out of character for him. I get post-regeneration, but it's taken to the next level of annoyance here. And I really think, when a lot of people think of the Sixth Doctor as kind of the douchebag doctor, they're thinking of this story. Because he's really bad here. I think this is the story people, this is the Sixth Doctor people have in their minds when they think of how crappy the Sixth Doctor is in their minds. It's this story. He's so bad here. Post-regeneration or not, it's too much. Some things I actually like. I like the main slug villain. I like his costume design, except for the eyes. The eyes look more like a costume, but the rest of the design I think looks pretty good, especially for Classic Who. I like his voice. He has that very booming voice that just says, I'm a very bad guy, listen to me. I really like the voice there. I like the Doctor's friend, the other Time Lord. His acting's actually really good in this. I like him and how he's just kind of in a bad situation. I actually really enjoy a lot of the alien designs. The other aliens on the planet with the silver face paint, I think their design's really well done. But especially for Classic Who, it's pretty impressive. The story is actually pretty good in the broad strokes. I actually like the story in the broad strokes. My issue with the story is more the Doctor being off, like so off. But if you take the Doctor's mannerisms out of the story, the actual plot of the story, I enjoy. The Doctor, well, the Hermit thing's a little silly too. But again, if you remove the Doctor and kind of his motivations out and look at the actual plot with the twins and the calculations and how the one guy's trying to save his planet, so he's working with this one creature he despises because he's trying to move these planets, and then finding out the creature has an ulterior motive to spread his eggs everywhere, kind of like the Crotons. It's actually a pretty good story. This is a story that I think if it had been written in the 70s and had cut out some of the post-regeneration nonsense, could have actually came off as a really good episode, or at least a pretty good episode, because I do like that plot. I think it's really clever. I think there's a lot going on. Again, you have the Doctor's friend who's trying to save his planet the only way he thinks he can. You have the Doctor finding out the fatal flaw of the plan of trying to move the other two planets in orbit around the bigger planet, because since they are smaller, the gravity from the sun will pull them into the sun. And I like that, that's what the main villain, the slug guy, that's kind of his plan, because he wants to blow everything up so all of these slug eggs he's laid will be dispersed everywhere in all these directions, because there's rows and rows and rows and rows and rows of these things. And I think that's a clever little plot. I actually can enjoy the story. This is kind of like, it's kind of like the opposite of the Daemons. I have a lot of issues with the Daemons story. There's a lot of stupid to me going on in the script personally. But the acting in the Daemons is really good. All of the actors are just on point, doing a great job. So I have issues with the story, but I really like the acting. The Twin Dilemma is kind of the opposite. I actually like a lot of the story in the broad strokes. Now, like I said, I have some issues with the Doctor, his dialogue, some of his characterization, and some of the decisions he makes. But the actual plot of the story, I really enjoy. It's the acting that brings it down. The acting is so bad in places, especially from Colin, because again, he's doing that theatrical, larger-than-life acting that's too over the top for me. And it feels less like I'm watching the Doctor and I'm watching like somebody on a stage playing the Doctor. And as someone who did a lot of theater, I don't like that. But yeah, I think it's underrated. I do think this story, I'd rather watch this than The Power of Kroll. Because The Power of Kroll, while being a decent script, as I've mentioned a lot, has a terrible execution. I'd rather watch this than The Faceless Ones. Just because I don't care much for the Faceless Ones. I find it uninteresting. As much as I love the Second Doctor and I love his era. Plus, I think the animation of the Faceless Ones, while being good, isn't quite as good as the live action, because I do prefer the surviving episodes of the Faceless Ones to the animation. But I'd rather watch this over the Faceless Ones, although that's probably more just which one I'm in the mood to watch. I'd rather watch this than Time on the Rani. I'd rather watch this than Kill the Moon. I'd rather watch this than Vincent and the Doctor. I'd rather watch this than Midnight. I'd rather watch this than Turn Left. I'd rather watch this than Oxygen. I'd rather watch this than any of Series 11. Any. I'd rather watch this than Rosa. I'd rather watch this than The Woman Who Fell to Earth. There are worse Doctor Who stories out there. Now, granted, all those ones I just named, most of those have better acting in them. I mean, all of Series 11 has better acting in it than this. I will admit that. But the actual stories just aren't as good. You know, it's way better than The Timeless Children. Especially story-wise and plot-wise. The plot to Twin Dilemma isn't bad. I think one of the reasons it's hated on so much is because I think the big mistake they made with this story was putting it at the end of season 21 when they should have saved it for the beginning of season 22. Because if you had done that, if you just waited and aired Twin Dilemma at the beginning of season 22, the last story of season 21 would have been The Caves of Androzani, which is considered one of the best Doctor Who stories ever made. That would have been a perfect way to cap off the season on a high note with a good story and a new Doctor for everybody to wonder, what's he going to be like? 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 Like we tend to do with Doctors, because usually a Doctor changes, between, at the end of a season, or these days during Christmas specials between seasons. So you have a lot of, what's he going to be like? What's he going to be like? What's he going to be like? Instead, we got the episode now, and the one story we get with him, he is an ass. I mean, yeah, now we try to retroactively say it's post-regeneration trauma, which actually, well, I shouldn't even say retroactively, because it mentions that in the story, that his mind's not all there together. And there is a lot of that. It's mentioned very often in the story that it is regeneration trauma, so I should clarify that. But he still comes off as an ass, and that's all people had to see of the Sixth Doctor for months until season 22 started, especially since the way Twin Dilemma ends is him looking at Perry go, I am the Doctor. Like it or not? And he's basically looking right at the audience. So it's like he's telling the audience, you've watched this new Doctor be a prick for pretty much 80% of the story. And then he's basically looking at you and going, I am the Doctor. Like it or not? Deal with it. And yeah, that's gonna leave a sour taste in people's mouth, especially when that's what they have to think about for months until the new season comes out. They're probably really already annoyed with this character by the time the next season started. So I think that's part of the reason this story is reviled so much, is it left that bad taste in people's mouth that got to sit there between season 21 and season 22. Where I think if they just waited and aired Twin Dilemma at the beginning of season 22, it might not have been quite as bad. You could have moved on to the next story very quickly, Attack of the Cybermen. Also, I really like that there is one plot element where the Doctor's regeneration trauma actually works when he's telling the slug-like creature, you want to link with me? Be like throwing a pebble in a lake. And the other Time Lord ends up sacrificing himself to save the Doctor, because he explains to the Doctor, no, your mind is too, unstable right now, and you would have been a pebble drowning in his lake. So it actually does. That's why the other Time Lord sacrificed himself. He knew the Doctor's mind wasn't together enough to deal with the slug creature. So it does actually have, his regeneration trauma does have a bit of a plot point right there at the end, which is nice. And that scene where the Doctor is holding his friend as his friend passes away is actually a really nice scene. It's very touching. I really enjoyed it. Some of the incidental music in this story is really good too. It's not a lot, because there's a lot of the incidental music, if it's there, I don't really notice it. It's just kind of in the background. But there was about 3 or 4 places I liked it, like the bit when he's strangling Perry. The music actually really does work well there. There's a scene in episode 3 where there's kind of a dum-da-dum, kind of like the main theme playing in the background at one point. It's pretty cool. And there's a couple other places where the incidental music really worked to great effect. So I will say the Twin Dilemma is better than it's given credit for. I won't say it's good, but it's more the acting that brings it down than the actual story. Again, stuff with the doctor aside, the broad strokes of the plot, I actually really enjoy. It's just the acting really holds it back. So what do you think of the Twin Dilemma? Have you actually watched it recently? I suggest giving it a review because I didn't think much of it the first time I watched it either. Give it a rewatch and see what you think. How do you think it compares with some of the other, not well thought of Doctor Who stories? Let me know down in the comments. I always enjoy interacting with you guys and finding out what you think. Other things to do: click the like button, click the subscribe button, click the bell for notifications. I've also started a Patreon page if you're interested in contributing to that. I've actually retweaked it slightly. I've changed the tiers. I've added a tier. There's a little $2 tier there, just in case you just want to contribute like $2 a month, just to help out. And I've renamed the tiers after more Doctor Who based stuff, since this is the channel I tend to focus more on now. So check it out, just see if there's anything there that interests you. I also made it to where some of the lower tiers have video requests. I know a lot of you like video requests. You could get into that at a cheaper cost now. But yeah, give it a look. Most importantly though, stay safe out there, and thank you for watching.